Hi, everyone. I'm Terry.
And I'm Ella.
Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast, Let's Get Real.
Here, no topic is off limits.
And real beats perfect every time.
Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to where you belong.
You're part of the family now, so let's get real together.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm happy to be back on this couch. Today, we're going to dive into a heavier topic. It's very important to us to dive into this topic because it's something that just does not get enough attention. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
First off, one of our main goals for Chasing Red Flags and this podcast is to share our personal experiences and what we've been through to help other people who have either gone through it or hopefully to prevent people from going through what I went through. And I have been through it, like I assume everyone has. And I have recently been in a lot of therapy, as you know. And let me just start off by saying I think every single person should be in therapy, no matter what. And I want to share my story today about being drugged at a bar in Boston in 2022 to hopefully reach out and help others who have been through the same thing and want to share their stories. And I posted a short version of this on my TikTok at the Chasing Red Flags official TikTok, and so many people reached out. So many people reached out, saying that they have been through similar experiences, and it's absolutely horrifying.
So that day was probably those couple of days were probably the worst days of our lives. And I think, like you said, it's really important for us to share what happened from both of our perspectives to prevent anyone else from going through the same thing, or at least, more importantly, making sure that if it's happened to someone else, that they don't feel as isolated and alone as you did.
I agree.
Okay. So, if you're ready?
Yep.
Let's start from the beginning. What do you remember about that night, Ella?
I remember going to the Bruins game with my ex, and we got a drink there. We were having fun, and we decided to meet up with a bunch of his friends after at a bar. And we got into the bar, and we ordered a round of drinks, and I got a beer with the twist-off cap. So I literally had to open it myself, and you heard, like, the clink of, like, opening it. Drank that. Hanging out. My ex told me he had to go to the bathroom to stay in the area we were all hanging out in, stay with his friends. He would be right back. I recognized some people from across the bar, walked over to catch up with them, and that is the last thing that I remember. I know that when my ex came back from the bathroom, I was over there, and he told me I had another drink in my hand. He doesn't know how I got that drink, and I don't either. And the next thing that I remember is waking up in the emergency room, and my hands and legs were tied to the hospital bed, and you were sitting next to me.
So, to fill you in again,
Yeah.
Your ex called me hysterical that you were not yourself, that you were throwing up all over an Uber. They kicked you out of the Uber. The Uber driver kicked you out on the side of the road. He didn't know where you were exactly, and it was torrential pouring rain. He carried you under a bridge. He said that you were in and out of consciousness, very aggressive, not making a lot of sense, and that he felt like he needed to call an ambulance. In that moment, not thinking, went into mama bear mode. I did not know at all where you were, and I didn't know what hospital they would take you to. I know with an ambulance, they take you to the nearest hospital. Mm-hmm. So I just wasn't thinking, got in the car and drove. He pinned me the location and drove to where you guys were so that I could take you to the hospital myself.
That makes sense. I'm just going to preface, I'm going to say a lot now, but this is all from what everyone else has been telling me, from what you guys told me what happened. So it's a little hard for me to still remember because there was nothing in that. Okay. I know that you told me in the car I was extremely agitated. I was kicking, I was screaming, and I was biting, and I was still in and out of consciousness. And I got to the hospital, and I still had all of those symptoms. So the doctor who saw me first gave me a shot of Haldol, which is a sedative, and that calmed me down. That still let me be in and out of consciousness, but that kind of just made me not have those aggressive moments. And then the next thing I remember is waking up the next morning, and I had absolutely no memory. And it was your birthday.
It was my birthday.
It was your birthday. And I felt so guilty that that was how you were spending your birthday. I also was confused. I felt violated. I didn't know what had happened. And that was really scary. And the first doctor actually released me from the hospital and sent me home.
He just kept saying over and over, she's just drunk. Mm-hmm. And I was fighting with him while you were in and out of consciousness all night. I was fighting with all of them at the hospital saying, she's not just drunk. These aren't drunk symptoms.
Because I was in and out of consciousness. I remember, like, you being in the room being like, she's not drunk. Like, look at her. Like, she's not drunk.
I mean, you just...
I was not, like, it was not normal.
You were not in your right mind. It was literally like an alien. You were thrashing and kicking, and it was terrifying to watch as a mom.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a little
Yeah,
break?
just for a hot sec.
Okay.
I remember when the first doctor released me from the hospital, we went home, and my symptoms got worse as the night went on. And
it was actually, we had plans.
It was your birthday
for my
still.
birthday.
Yeah. We were supposed to go to dinner.
And you slept for a little bit, and then
I woke up and I was
your symptoms were bad.
So bad. I had muscle spasms. For anyone listening, if you know what it's like to have a toe cramp, I had a toe cramp in my entire body. So my muscles, my finger, my jaws, my toes, everything in my body was like locked. So I couldn't speak and I was like stuck. And I had an extremely high fever. It kept increasing like 101, 102. Yep. And then I got to the hospital and I had a seizure and I chipped my tooth on the side of the bed when I was
right in the big front of your teeth.
Yeah.
So when we got there was a new doctor on call. Mm-hmm. She was incredible. She immediately said to me, looking at your chart, that you had serotonin syndrome.
I actually, sorry to interrupt, but I was put in the ICU because I had serotonin syndrome. So I actually have my discharge papers because I wanted to read all the symptoms of what I had for anybody. If you ever have these symptoms when you're drunk, you should know that you're not just drunk. There's something wrong and you should go to the hospital immediately. So I'm just going to read
and tell them
these.
what serotonin syndrome is exactly.
So it's a problem that can happen after certain situations. It's uncommon and can be very serious or deadly if it does happen. And
when you have too many different drugs
in your system. So I'm on anxiety medicine. So I had my anxiety medicine in my system, the shot of Haldol from the first doctor, and the drug that was in my system. So serotonin syndrome can happen to people after they take certain medicines or combinations of medicines. So these are some of the symptoms: feeling anxious, restless, or confused, sweaty or sweating, muscle spasms or muscles that cannot relax normally, very fast back and forth eye movements, shaking or trembling, fever, very fast heartbeat, vomiting, diarrhea, and a seizure. And I had all of these symptoms. So I just want people to be more aware of these symptoms. And if you are drunk, you may not just be drunk, so just to be more aware of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously there's people that are just drunk, but
of course,
realistically, if you have diarrhea and twitching and you have
the
a
muscle
seizure
spasms and
yeah, so just so you remember, I remember you were like this.
My jaw was like a lock.
And you couldn't even talk.
I literally I was in excruciating pain.
Yeah.
Like throughout my entire body.
So I think when we got to the hospital, that doctor was like, okay,
something's wrong.
We need to get her to the ICU. Yeah. And that's when I panicked.
Yeah.
She said that your heartbeat was irregular when they were testing you and that you needed to be in the ICU overnight. I was not allowed to stay with you, which was...
I needed my mom.
Very traumatic for both of us. They put you in the ICU. They made me sign tons of paperwork that if something happened to you overnight, that they would call me, which again, as a mom, not sitting there next to you was horrific. It was a bad situation all around.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions.
That's fine.
Okay. How do you feel about how you processed it?
I think I'm still processing it today. I don't think I processed it at the time at all. Due to the timing, it was your birthday. I felt so guilty that you were spending it like that. The next day was Christmas Eve. I was supposed to be at my ex's house for dinner with his family, and I didn't want to make anyone think anything was wrong in any way or show that happy Ella wasn't happy Ella. So I didn't process it, and I just went through the motions and continued to move on.
Yep. So what did the next few days look like?
I think the days were a blur. I still don't remember exactly what happened. I felt guilty. I was so upset that I missed the Christmas dinner with the whole family, and
We actually were at Christmas dinner.
it was
You missed
the
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve dinner.
You actually got...
I went to Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
The day after.
You got out of the hospital
I remember.
on Christmas Eve, and we
next
both
day.
went to Christmas dinner together because you didn't want me to leave your side.
And I didn't want anyone to think anything was wrong, so I just kept going. And I thought, oh, if I just move on, it won't affect me as much as I think it will.
Which is what you always do.
Which is what I always do. And that's not healthy. But I think I was also upset because I think my ex is a little mad that I didn't stay in the spot that I was supposed to at the bar when he went to the bathroom. Because in a way, if I stayed in that spot, I maybe would have never gotten another drink, and this might have never happened. So I think I just was guilty, and I didn't know what to do.
What did I do about it?
You went into mama bear mode. That's what I would say.
I did.
You went to the bar to see if there were cameras, and unfortunately there were not.
If I'm being honest, I feel like nobody knows without literally a camera on someone's head following them around, whether it could be someone at the bar, someone that came to the bar. This also doesn't even just happen at bars, but people are coming to us. They've been drugged anywhere. And the problem with this is that you just don't know.
I don't know how it happened. I really don't. And you also made me promise to talk to my therapist about what I went through, because it was very important for me, as much as I talked about it with you, to talk to somebody else.
Well, you were blaming yourself a
I was
lot.
blaming myself.
Do you feel like you were just going through the motions?
Absolutely. Just think I thought if I kept going through the motions, I would never have to process it or feel the pain of what I went through.
Because you were
Because if I was going through the motions would become real, and then I would be fine.
Right. Because with me, you were very insistent that we did all of the things that were on our
I want to
schedule.
back school. I want to go do this. I want to do this. I want to, yeah.
Right. What made you want to tell your story now?
I think I didn't tell anyone, so I felt like I did something wrong, and I was embarrassed and humiliated, and I had no memory of the lost time during that night, and not knowing what I was doing and what my actions were and who I talked to and what I said to people. That is so hard for me to process, and I don't want anyone else to feel like that.
You were so upset.
I was so upset. So me sharing this story and telling how I felt, and hopefully telling other people that that's not how you should feel, because it's not your fault. It's never your fault. It happened to you. It was never your fault. So that's why I want to share my story.
How did your TikTok end up on the Dr. Phil show?
It ended up on the Dr. Phil show because through therapy, I learned a lot that also helped me want to share. And so I made a short TikTok, and they saw it. And they were working on an episode about roofies on the rise and the epidemic of people being drugged all over the country. And they saw that I was drugged, and they wanted to include my video, as they thought it was very impactful and got the message across.
People have reached out, not just to you, but also to me. Adults, not just young people, are being drugged, sexually assaulted, robbed. This is an issue that is prevalent everywhere, and it's not specific to age, and it's scary. I have another question. You good?
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
How has it affected you when you go out now?
That's a good one. I'm so much more cautious. And I think at school and where I'm comfortable, it's not as much of an issue because I'm surrounded by people that I trust more. So that makes me feel better. But for spring break. We were in Florida, and I had a panic attack when we were going out because I was going to a place where I didn't know people, and it was an environment where I was extremely anxious about what could happen to me. And so it definitely has made me more aware when I'm going out. I also don't like to be as impaired.
Right.
I don't actually like to not know what's going on. I really like to be aware when I am going out so I can make sure I'm safe.
How has it impacted your ability to trust people?
I think going along with that, I have a lot of trust issues, not just from being drugged, but many other things that have gone on in my life. But I would never, at least right now, I'm not going to say never, but in this moment, I like to get a drink myself. I like to watch the drink being made behind the bar. I like to make sure I am the one ordering it. I don't like to take drinks from other people. I usually get something in a bottle where I can put my thumb over it, and that just makes me feel safe.
Of course.
If you don't mind, I have like 2 questions for you from my perspective, I know, but like I just want to know what those nights and few days did look like from your perspective.
From my perspective, obviously I was terrified. Not being in the hospital with you is definitely like knowing you were there in intensive care and not being able to be there was horrific. I honestly didn't want you to go back to college. I was like, you just wanted to live your normal life.
Yes.
Within 2-3 days after you were.
I also think, I'm sorry, but I also think it was hard because you and my ex are the only 2 people that knew, and you were the only one that talked to me about it. So I kept feeling like I did something wrong, so I didn't want to blame myself. So I was like, let me just not think about it at all and just go back to normal.
Because he never brought it up again.
No. So I was just like, let's just move on. Like, clearly there's a disconnect. Clearly everyone thinks I did something wrong. I just don't want to talk about it. Let me just go to be back to normal.
Right. And at the time, I wasn't in therapy. I've been in therapy since. So I didn't know that I should have been like talking to you more and getting it out more.
I mean, you did, but there's only so much one person can do. I needed to talk to more people. And that's why I'm trying to share it now too.
Yeah.
As you were saying about the college stuff, how has me being drugged affected the 2 of us now?
So after you went back to college, we had made a deal that any time you were out, whether it was a bar or a party, that you would text me every hour.
Yeah.
Which I know might seem
sounds crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
But after this experience, I had no issue.
No, you were incredible. But for me, if I didn't hear from you within an hour, I would panic.
Yeah.
We're now at 2 hours. If I don't hear from you, I think your friends have been incredible. I will text one of your friends just to say, is Ella with you? Are you good? And I think that
it also doesn't need to be like hi, I'm great. This is what I'm doing all night. I'm good.
Sometimes you give me
alive.
a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yes. But for me, you finally sharing it because none of your friends knew.
No.
They don't think I'm such a crazy mom anymore. Yeah. And I was texting them once in a while saying, is Ella good? And I think, from my perspective, that was probably like, why is this mom annoying me?
Yeah.
So now I think everyone has been so incredible about, no, she's good. She's just in the bathroom. We're talking to a bunch of people. And everyone's been really, really great about that. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing that you've learned from this whole experience and going through this together? What's the most important thing?
Okay, so the first most important thing to me is be an advocate for your child. At the hospital, the first doctor was adamant that you were just drunk and did not think anything else was wrong.
Yeah.
And I would not let it go.
You were an advocate.
The second thing is, because you are 18, there is paperwork that a parent needs to have in order to have access to your medical records or to make decisions on your behalf. And I think that we had those.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, a friend of mine had given me this piece of advice when you had turned 18. There are forms that you can have that is medical power of attorney, a HIPAA form, and a healthcare proxy. It's 3 forms that if you get them signed and your daughter signs them or your son signs them or your child signs them, that says they have access. That means that I can make decisions for you, medical decisions.
You can see my medical records.
Yes. But if you had been taken to the hospital with your ex and I was not there, they would not have even had to tell me that you were in the hospital. Yeah. And I think most parents don't know that.
Not at all.
So I think that was key. I had those forms on my phone. Even though I was there with you, I still had to show them those forms to show them that I was the decision maker.
Yeah.
So those two things I think are the biggest life lessons in this particular thing. And also to talk to your kid more. I feel like I could have done more.
No.
You
always think you could do more, Mom, but you did everything that you could have done.
I just wish you didn't keep it a secret for as long as you did.
I was ashamed, not in that way, but I felt guilty, like I did something wrong.
I know.
And that's just not true. It's just not true.
What's the most important thing you've learned from this experience?
That it's not your fault. It's not. It's not your fault. And I will tell that to anybody if that's happened to you. If it does happen to you, it's not your fault. It really did happen to you. So that's the biggest thing I've learned. I also think talk to somebody. As much as I love talking to you, talking to my therapist was amazing. It was an outside perspective. It was somebody else that was telling me it wasn't my fault. And I think that validation, even though I shouldn't have needed it, it just felt good to hear from somebody else. So share your stories. It's also so nice to connect with somebody else who's been through the same thing.
Over 40
people reached out to me who have been through similar experiences. And getting that connection and knowing you're not alone is a very validating feeling.
And I'm so proud of you because I feel like because you shared your story and all of these people have reached out to you to tell you their stories, you now have kind of, it bonds people when they go through a similar experience and you now have these connections with other people that have been through it. So I think that's a big thing for us is just having other people feel like they have a connection of someone who went through the same thing as you did.
I agree.
Well, I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
And I love you.
Thank you. I really wanted to do this episode because I really wanted to raise awareness of what can happen when this happens and to be careful with your drinks and where you put them and how you get them and cover them when you're carrying them because you truly never know what's going to happen. And talk to somebody because in the end it will affect your mental health, and it did affect mine. And I just want everyone else to hopefully learn from what I did.
Yeah. I love you.
Love you too.
So thank you for listening. And thank you for being here. And we hope that we've helped in some way. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to us about this topic, we're always available.
I'm here. I'm open. I've been through it. And if anyone ever wants to reach out, I would love to have a conversation and just share more. So in the meantime, keep being real, keep being you, and know that we've got your back. If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to say hi, we would love to hear from you. Your support means everything to us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chasing Red Flags Official and on Facebook and YouTube at Chasing Red Flags. And if you want to share your story, ask a question, or pick up some Chasing Red Flags merch, go to ChasingRedFlags.com. The Chasing Red Flags podcast is produced by Jay Del Turco. We are new in this space, so if you enjoyed what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or add a comment and like on our YouTube channel.